I don't know what's going on sometimes.
I had a hat on, and I have a different hat on now.
You make it seem like you like just randomly change out hats throughout the day.
Yeah. My hair is worse looking than normal, and I was like, I want a hat.
Anyway. Rejoice, for it was the third in a row we've actually committed to getting something done.
In 1666, so my hat is period appropriate.
No, it's not. That's like late 1700s.
It's more period appropriate than your hat.
I'm not. Anyway, so tell them what we watched. This is your channel. You do the background.
We watched Fear Street Part 3, 1666. Could have been Fear Street 1666 set in the year 3. I don't think so though, based on the historicity. But they're in like colonial times in America, which we were convinced the buildings were a bit too new.
I think it's Puritan times. I think it's pre-colonial. I know that's not a very big distinction to make to a European.
Colonial would be any time they're the British colonies.
Yeah, no, but like when you say colonial, like there's an infrastructure implied. The 13 colonies are implied, like as an aesthetic. Colonial is a little bit later. Okay. This is a real thing. Americans know what I'm talking about, especially if you were raised in the East Coast.
Oh, wow.
Colonial is the cobblestone streets, and you know all the things that you think of when you think of the Revolutionary War. But like, obviously there were colonies, asterisks, more like settlements.
As a layman in American history, I always assumed just colonial.
The Crucible. Think the Crucible.
Yeah, I thought colonial was Europeans.
Yes, but when you say
first
colonial,
colony to American independence.
Yes, but when you say colonial, there's a big difference between the Puritans and then the time directly preceding the Revolutionary War. There's a big difference. Well, I mean, if you think about it, it's about 100 years difference from like the 1660s. Like yeah. That's like the New World. That's like conquistadors.
Yeah. Well, if you want to be more exact, it could be like 1660s. That's Restoration.
Yeah. So basically, there's a big difference between Salem, like you know, basically the Crucible, that time period, you know, the Scarlet Letter, and Benjamin Franklin. There's 100 years difference.
Yeah, I realize that.
So I'm saying that, like, I know that you guys think of time in like vast epochs, but like to us, if you say colonial, that's what we would think of.
Yeah, if I just think of it as before American independence, after Europeans arrived, you got that area. The whole area is called colonial, but if you want to be more exact within that, use a different term.
Yeah, well, there's the Puritans. So basically, like the little teeny villages on the miserable New England coast, barely getting by.
Yeah, and that's fine.
You guys know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
you know. So okay, continue. Then what? What happened? What happened next?
So like, there's a ghost stuff going on, and just amazingly, the entire of this it's filmed in Georgia, but I don't think it's set in Georgia. Village, and they are all inhabited by people who are exactly the same as people from the 21st century.
No, see, I like that, and I'll tell you why I like that. Was Shakespeare the first person to do the whole kind of like play within a play, but played by the same people kind of thing?
Doubt it.
Okay, but that trope, you know, that's a used like visual trope of the stage, where it's like there's two stories, right? And
yeah. I just think it's amusing that you got these actors from the 21st century are playing characters from the 20th century who have been reimagined. Who in the 1600s is reimagining the 1600 people as these people from the 90s and the 70s who are actually from the 2020s. It's you know, multiple levels of unnecessary but amusing bullshit.
And whose fault is it?
The writers.
No, I meant in general, the series. Oh. Whose fault is it?
The villain.
The cops.
Oh, yes. I was confused what you meant.
Okay.
Yes, spoilers,
like, well, no, we said since the first.
Yeah.
The first film.
The villain is Sheriff Good, and apparently he was literally a CAB, assigned cop at birth.
Yeah, they basically, like in the other one, they're like, oh, your dad was the police chief and he died. He's not even out of high school. He can't even join the academy yet. And they're like, oh, but you'll be chief of police. I'm like, how? How? Is it a hereditary position? What?
Clearly, one's the mayor, one's the chief
And
of
then
police.
in the 90s, he was the chief of police, and I was like, but someone would be asking questions at some point. That's all I'm saying.
We've got to turn the PS5 off.
I was not in charge of that. Well, here, you keep talking to them, and I'll turn it off with the thing.
Okay, so they're basically the main character, Dina, the main character from the first Fear Street, has gone back in time somehow and is reliving the life of Sarah Fear. So you can discover that Sarah Fear isn't evil. She's, she's not bad. She's just written that way. And of course, history is written by the winners. So she was treated terribly, and then the bastardly ones decided that she was a witch, and that became the official history because history is really, it's less a set of facts and more of a narrative based on those facts that is decided by the majority.
Yeah. So really, it was kind of like, it was very similar to the end of Practical Magic. Like, oh, the witch was the good one this whole time.
Dun dun dun!
What? I'm still annoyed at this idea that, so the shopping mall, right? And we discussed this last time, how annoyed I was. They're like, oh, we built this whole entire shopping mall, and the tree in the middle of the food court is the hanging tree. And you're like, but alright, okay.
The magical good family insisted on it, and therefore they used magic to do it.
No, they didn't. But then you find out that, in one of the back parts of the mall, where, the rubbishes and stuff like that, if you lift up a grate, literally, that's the under-the-floor area from the 1600s. It's the tunnel that still leads to the cave, the Devil Cave. And I was like, what? Is this a prefab mall? Did you just, assemble it somewhere else and then lightly place it upon the land?
And this is the same place that there was an outhouse in the 70s, so, what a shitty location.
You said that last time.
I know, but still.
But anyway.
I think it's pretty funny that, the villain in this, the odious villain, the good family, are still less horrible than the villainous good in the Salem Connected Witch series, American Horror Story Coven.
I haven't seen any of them.
Well, Jessica Lange, whose name I could not remember in a previous video.
Was that who you were thinking of last time?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
She is spectacularly evil in everything she does in that series.
Spectacular.
Yeah. She's basically a bitchy drag queen with powers.
See, I was expecting, you find out that, again, Sarah Fear was innocent and she sacrificed herself. I really thought she was going to pull spoilers for Dragon Age 2, pull an Orsino at the end. And be like, if you're going to accuse me of consorting with the devil, then maybe I will. Yeah, when she said we were innocent and the other one was, the preacher's daughter was like, it doesn't matter. They've already decided we've done it, so we must have done it. And then so she's like, so we might as well do it. And I thought that that was when they were hanging her because her hand was still on the Satan Stone. And that's when she would fine, you said that I did this, then I'll fucking do it.
That was also in The Witch, the absolutely spectacular...
You mean the Witch?
Yes. Which...
That's it, it's stylized.
Which is spectacular bit of filmmaking, but that basically happens there where she's accused of being a witch the entire time, and then in the end the devil's killed her family, and she's like, well, I'm alone in the woods, everyone thought I was a witch anyway, the devil's around, let's go hang out and fly in the air with all the witches in the woods. Which is fair enough, Having watched the film, I would do the same thing if given the choice.
Although I did like the fact that this was obviously filmed on some kind of area, it was a village but from later on. I think it might be a plantation, historical plantation.
Yeah, the houses look a bit too advanced for edge of nowhere, middle, sort of...
fine European craftsmanship and paneled rooms.
Yeah.
And stuff that you couldn't make, even in Boston or Philadelphia, or Baltimore, you would have had to have shipped from Europe.
I did some looking after while watching it because I was curious, and I discovered that the style of building that they have did exist at that period. I assumed they were from 50 years later, so I was wrong about that. But definitely not in a hamlet that it's on the edge of nowhere. And
it's they keep referring to the settlement, so it's obvious that they're a small farm community that's split off from a more settled area. But still, again, maybe if you're the wealthiest merchant on the Delmarva Peninsula, you might have a house like that, but no.
And it's their little area that they call it.
Yeah, those are not the log and mud cabins.
Yeah.
that people are freezing and dying in, because you saw when we went to Valley Forge, you saw.
I didn't go to Valley Forge.
We did go to Valley Forge.
No,
we did.
No,
well.
I don't remember us going to Valley Forge. You might have driven through it, and I didn't know what it was.
Okay, that's true. But anyway, if you Google Valley Forge National Park, they have a lot of replica cabins that were made. I want to say in like they started doing it in maybe the 70s, but Google it because I don't know for sure because I was a little kid in the 80s. But they're made of basically like mud plaster and logs.
Yeah.
And that was from the Revolutionary War 100 years later.
Yeah.
And that's like, you know...
Yeah, the houses they have on this are basically the sort of houses you have on the outskirts of a city.
Yeah, I think if we do some Googling, I think it might be historical slave plantation or something like that.
It's probably...
Like, come and see how things used to be. Oh, racist.
Yeah, this was filmed in Georgia, so probably some dark stuff happened there involving slavery.
Definitely. But yeah. Everyone did a pretty good job of striding about in a Puritan kind of way.
I'm wondering what state they're set in, because they completely ignored the subject of slavery in the town, and even one that size, there should have been like one or two like slaves there, unless it's a completely slavery free colony, which I don't think there were at that point.
No, not entirely, but the more northerly people were. Because here's the thing, the reason that the South became like they imported a lot of slaves and became big slave states was because the ground was really great for mass growing crops. Like there are some crops you can grow really well in New England, like trees and orchards and stuff like that. And yeah, you can get wheat and corn, but not in the sheer abundance of nutrients in the soil and warmth and growing season of the South.
And there's also, it was at some point in the 1600s, there was the legal battle which actually established slavery for life in America as a legal precedent that didn't exist before that. And so this may well have been before that.
Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure when that was.
Well, again, it's a horror series about a curse, so it's not exactly like, and actually in 1735.
And they were reimagining characters from the modern day. I think they were sort of playing the parts of historical characters, so it might have got very confusing if randomly, like the slave in the village was played by was being reimagined as one of the white characters.
Yeah.
Because then otherwise you got like 3 black characters. Let's make them all slaves. That would be even worse.
Yeah.
So okay, yeah.
But here's the thing. The third one did really capture to an extent that the previous one didn't, but the first one kind of did. The reinforcing that this is based on a horror series for children. It did have a lot of kid elements, especially a lot of like 80s and 90s kid elements. Like the moment where the child is like, we're gonna do the good thing, right? And the cowardly older ones or adults are like, and then the kid goes, and then the music swells orchestratively as they realize that they've got to do the right thing, and even if all the adults let them down. Like that is
do the good thing,
right, well, yeah.
Raise the devil and inflict it on poor people.
But like that moment was in so many, like late 80s, early 90s kids media. It was, guys. You
I believe you.
Gen Xers and millennials, you tell them what's
I believe you. I'm just struck by the amazing... unflattering image of us right now.
Listen, I didn't tell you to put the hat on.
It's nothing to do with the hat. It's the camera's fault.
Well I'm also leaning back. So.
The best bit in these 3 was in this one. It's where you got in the first film you got this very minor character. He's this sort of black guy who's being hassled by the police. So they're being shitty to him. They're being racist to him, but they're not really being. It's not being explicit, but you can tell what's going on.
Yeah.
And this one, the kids sort of just come up and find him, and he's like,
because he gave him his card.
Yeah.
And just saw him in jail.
And so they stole in the cop car, and they go off and find him, and he's like, I'm not doing anything, stop hassling me. And then he sees it's the kids, and they're like, hey, we're gonna go and kill the sheriff. Do you wanna join us? And he's like, I'll get my coat.
I like that guy. He was great. Like, I really thought that what they were going with at the end is, like, they're going to hint that he was the actual creator of Flash Media. And then, like, there was a bit at the end, which I'm sure is sequel bait, where a girl seemingly comes from the future and says, oh, you need a solid state driver, Flash Media, here, and then writes her Instagram handle on the kid's cast.
That is confusing.
In the 90s, and I'm pretty sure that she's a time traveler. I'm pretty sure that that's what that's supposed to be.
Maybe that's a reference to another Fear Street book, or maybe it's John Titor, who knows?
No, because here's the thing, even if you're thinking about Usenet, you know, in '94, the @ wasn't used that way.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure that was her Instagram handle.
Or it was just someone, the scriptwriter, having like a massive brain fart.
No, because there was sequel bait at the end, so you know it's going to be important later.
Well, if Netflix is around to make more of them.
Yeah, it's we have Netflix, so
Like these things,
I don't even know how to cancel them.
it is baffling that this is as good as it is, considering it's a Netflix adaptation of R.L. Stein books.
Because I wonder how much creative control that he had. You know, because what if he had a shit ton of creative control? Like us, apparently Neil Gaiman has a lot of creative control in his TV shows.
Yeah, I'm just saying, R.L. Stein, it's not a name that I usually connect with quality. Like quantity.
Yeah, but here's the thing,
I was
though.
too old for those books, so
Yeah,
I never read them.
that's exactly
so
it.
I'm
So
like,
there were like millions of people out there for whom those books hit exactly perfect.
and that's fine. I'm saying is that I'm just surprised this turned out as well as good as it did.
Yeah, but like you can't say that he's rubbish just because you weren't the proper age or place for it. Like apparently,
I'm saying I don't connect his work with quality.
Like apparently he's like really awesome and like
It's
super
fine.
nice guy and everything.
That is perfectly fine. I don't see.
Stone her, kill the non-believer, kill the witch.
I have no reason to disbelieve that he's a good guy. It's just I don't connect his books with quality.
She said it, so when he comes for us on Twitter,
I could
in his nice and polite way, and I'll be like, I didn't say it, sir.
I'm pretty sure he doesn't connect my name with quality either.
Well, he probably doesn't know you.
I know but still, that still doesn't matter what the reason is.
Anyway,
he still doesn't connect my name with quality because he doesn't know who I am.
Anyway, it was really funny watching the future.
He can cry about it while living in his house with a swimming pool because he's R.L. Stein and he's got a fuckload of money, probably, hopefully.
He might live somewhere like in New England where it's really cold and you can't have a swimming pool.
You get a swimming pool indoors.
That's true, yeah.
You know, he's successful and hopefully he's rich enough to be, just like, I'm having a good life, I don't care what people think.
Did you smoke drugs?
Not smoke.
All of the Did you lick drugs?
Not right now.
But anyway, so one of the most interesting things was seeing the future characters in the past, and they gave them these really strange, ridiculous wigs that are meant to look like, the ye old farmy times, but on the one guy it just looks like it looks like almost like dreads combed out and then tied. It looks like Geralt of Rivia's hair in the trailer, except brown instead of white, and he's like, my wig is a different color than all of the rest of my hair. Shut up, I'm old-timey.
The wigs, it reminded me of a film I watched last night called Lords of Chaos.
Oh.
It's a true story based on early Norwegian black metal where one of the guys started a band and then their lead singer killed himself and then another guy came in and did band stuff and they burned down churches and eventually one of them murdered another one. It's a whole thing. But the film, the main character was played by Rory Culkin. Macaulay Culkin's younger brother. And apparently it was in pre-production for so long that he grew his hair to the proper, mid-back length, for the part. And then he gave up and he cut his hair. And then 2 weeks later, then the funding finally came through, so he had to wear a wig. So it was like, aww.
That's what happens when you're not an author and actor. But yeah, I mean, it was good. It was a good conclusion to the end of a series, although it wasn't a slasher movie conclusion because it was a moderately happy ending for most people.
Well, it's slasher. Slasher movie always has a happy ending for the people.
One person.
Yeah,
for the
people who don't get killed, or maybe for the slasher if they're like immortal. Freddy is seriously stoked after every film because he's just gonna come back.
That's true, yeah.
And Jason's incapable of feeling emotions, so that's a pretty happy ending because he's never sad.
So, is there anything else to say? Have you anything else to say? Any serious points to make?
No serious points. I mean, the films are better than I would have expected, and you seem all eternally happy to see your nostalgia put on the screen.
It was a different time.
Well, I don't get that experience because...
You can watch Dairy Girls again.
Dairy Girls does not resemble Dairy of the 90s. It doesn't
Everyone
resemble
else
Dairy of
disagrees
today.
with you. Everyone else online disagrees with you. I'm on the subreddit. People are always like, "Oh, here I do be remembering that when they were saying things."
Derry Girls, it gets the tone of Derry's sense of humor right.
Okay,
It gets the archetypes right. It doesn't get the nostalgia. It doesn't look
Are you
like Derry of there.
that maybe the reason you have a different opinion than most other people is the fact that you kind of had your own little community and you weren't really part of either mainstream community.
It's
so you were a little bit like
it's possible, but I'm more remembering what Derry looked like then, and the show does not recreate that at all.
They can't go like
they can't
rebuilding things that have been built. They can't make a house of Free Derry Corner.
Well, that was gone before my time. My point is that the same kind of visceral nostalgia that you're getting from the recreated visions of the 1990s, I don't get from Derry Girls, because they don't do that, because they don't have the budget. It's very simple.
Well, they could film it in Georgia.
Oh, make it so much more authentic.
It was a real mall. They filmed it in a real mall.
You're all like, I love malls.
I do.
You're so happy that malls still exist over here and they're not dying.
I fucking loved to go to the mall when I was a teenager, preteen. Because like anything can happen at the mall. Maybe you'll get a pretzel. Like
I never get a pretzel.
Maybe like you'll get a snack. Like especially if you were younger there with your parents. Like maybe like this time. Like, you'll get a snack. Like, it'll just happen. Like, your mom will be like, oh, I feel like getting ice cream. Do you want ice cream? You're like, yes, it's fucking happening. Or, like, you might get to go into a shop that has neat things to look at. Or, like, maybe if you whine enough, you can have a treat. God'll even... Or it could bring you misfortune. You could have to stand around at Talbot's for, like, 45 minutes while your mother looks at skirts. Or, like, some shop that you don't like, or you have to try on clothes, there's something that you would want anyway, but you can't have the things that you want. So, like, at the mall, it was like, what will it be? Fortune or failure?
We have to go to Gateshead now so that he can visit the Metro Centre and be really happy.
It's not the same.
That's the largest mall in the UK.
Mm. I haven't been to an American mall in a very long time.
You haven't been in America in a very long time.
Only in like 3 years. But the last time I was in the States, though, I went to the Exton Mall, which was still standing. I'm pretty sure it's still around. But I think the only thing in it now is like the Yankee Candle.
Everything else is
closed? Like the Bed Bath and Beyond, Bath and Body Works.
The Bed Bath and Beyond, the Ken of Man's Understanding.
Yeah, I don't even think that even any of the anchor department stores are open anymore. To the point where it was so abandoned, it was one of the ones that Kevin Smith looked at for filming for the
new Mallrats, which hasn't happened yet.
Yeah. But Exton Mall didn't make it. But yeah, it was dead. It was just some elderly mall walkers and just dead. It's a pity,
Malls are doing fine over here still.
Well, yeah, that's because you don't have like the same kind of suburbs that we do.
Yeah.
You don't put the centers in the suburbs. You put them in the town center, or the city center, where like they get foot traffic. It's be like, oh, what should we do? We'll go to Foyleside.
Like, there are some gigantic outside the city giant malls, but there's only a few of them in England, but they seem to still be going...
Well, yeah, because if they're attraction, like the Mall of America or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's like, right now in the internet age, the mall that's down the town, that's convenient to walk to, you're like, oh shit, I really need this thing. I can order it on Amazon, but no, I need it today. I'll just go down to the shop.
Yeah.
I need shoes today.
I need another hat.
No, you don't. So, patron, that has been 3 Fear Streets. I hope that it was all that you dreamed of and more.
There was lots of...
Just watch them in a playlist and be like,
There was lots of Sarah fearful symmetry in these reviews.
That wasn't funny, and I told you that it wasn't funny. And you said you were going to say it.
They actually have a Fear Street in this, even though Sarah Fear is killing absolutely everyone. I can only imagine there was someone else called Fear in the local area who was famous. But
well, her dad didn't die.
Yeah, but why would they name a street after him?
Well, I don't know. Maybe he did something really heroic, like he saved the bean harvest or something.
So there has to be someone who is famous enough to have a named street named after them, and eclipsed Sarah Fear's sort of local issues. So there's got to be like some kind of a plot there, like a story that would be worth finding.
Maybe that'll be like in the next series. We'll find that out.
The time travel one.
Yeah.
Sarah Fear was sent into the future, where she has to battle gladiators and alien planets.
No, it's more like Dina, leaping from witch to witch, always hoping that this serial killer will be the one to bring her home.
Anyway, that's us. Hope you enjoyed it.
Hope it was worth it.
If you didn't, I really wish you'd stopped watching before now, but live and learn.
It's too late for you. Alright, I'm going to bed. I've had it.
Ah.